A pharaoh has fallen. Yeah, what's going on, party people in the place to be? I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? Just happy to see everyone. Let's see who's in the chat right now. We got Mr. Green on the check-in. We got Adrian Jones. We got my guy, Servant of Christ Ministries. You know what I mean? Who else we got in here? Blah. We got Bodega Lady D New. We got my man Bats, aka Built for Speed. We got JP Davis, one of the most humorous people I've ever seen on the internet. Like JP be cracking me up. Great sense of humor, man. Good dude. We got BK Apologetics. We got Sequina McAdams. We got Dr. Doom himself, apologist in Detroit, on the check-in. And this is good stuff, man. This is good stuff. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend that it's him again. And if you feel so inclined to support this ministry, you can hit me on PayPal. Or if you want to be a monthly supporter, you can be a patron. We get all sorts of delicious, edifying treats for your personal study of the Word of God. So, and I have one of my nearest and dearest. What happened?
Tell you, I was a good preacher right there.
Hanging out with you guys too much. Speaking of preachers, we have an amazing preacher, pastor, good friend of mine. You are a pastor. Stop playing.
Stop it.
No, you stop it. Of course, I'm talking about CMB, the ambassador. What's going on, sir?
What's good, my brother? How y'all doing tonight? What's good? I see the party people in the chat. What's up, man? Thanks for having me here tonight. And for the record, I am about half a pastor. I'm an associate.
There's no such thing as half a pastor. Like, you got to stop that,
DJ.
bro.
I always say that, man.
Yeah, it's like that's like being a little pregnant, bro. You are a whole pastor in these streets, bro. You do the job of a minister. Stop playing. Yeah. Stop it. I appreciate the humility, but no. So we are here to discuss a video that was addressed to yours truly. Sarah Christ is funny. He says, I am CMB's armor bearer.
I dust off his Bible. Make sure it's at the right spot before he gets up to preach it.
There you go. Somebody got to do it.
That's right.
And of course, we have also joining us today for this discussion is MJ Jackson. What's going on, sir?
Grace and peace. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
All right.
Yes. Okay, now we can't hear you. Wait. Keep talking, MJ.
I'm here.
Yeah, okay, we can hear you. All right.
Okay, you good. Yep.
So we are here to discuss a video that was addressed to moi. And it's interesting, when you decide that you're going to be a Christian apologist of any sort, and you're on the interwebs, you're going to attract, certain attention, and not everybody's going to like what you do. Shocking, I know, but
You mean people go hard after Christians on the internet?
Just a little, just a smidge, just a smidge.
Surely you jest.
I wish I was, sir. I wish I was. So, and it's not persecution because I feel like that people throw that word around a lot. Like, my house is not being burnt down. I'm not being drawn and quartered.
True story.
You know what I mean? I'm not being whipped. You know what I mean? Right. So it's not persecution. It's just, but people, don't like when you preach the gospel or when you defend it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
in all fairness, Hatun just got attacked recently in England.
Right.
So
that's persecution.
Corner. Yeah. And that was legit persecution, right? So like getting bad mouthed on the internet. That's whatever.
Right. I mean, I don't like it. It's not fun to be called all sorts of names, but it comes to the territory. I pretty much knew what I was getting into. I mean, watching what vocab goes through and various other apologists. I'm like, eventually that's going to happen to me, and it has. in more than one occasion. And so we've been having a back and forth with Shakka Ahmose for the better part of a year and a half. I am your father, you stupid. Just to give you guys some backstory, Shakka's definitely been a staple in his community far longer than I've been in this one. He's been doing this for a very long time, very well known in his community. And, I'm a nobody, and I guess our first interaction was he saw a video that I did with speech from Arrested Development. And he's, unbeknownst to me, he was quite a fan of speech, which is, I think that's pretty cool. So I guess that's when he first saw me when I was talking to speech. So, we had a couple, interactions here. Nothing serious. And then later on, he decides for some reason to make a series about urban apologists and the lies that they tell. And he does an introductory video. Adam wanted to respond right away. But I was the one who's like, no, let him do the first episode first to see what he has. And he does his first episode. And then me and Adam do a two-parter, which is almost 6 hours worth of material because there was just so much that we had to deal with that Shakka was presenting. And there wasn't really a response from our rebuttal in about 10 months. There still hasn't been an actual response. So, but he's done videos after that. It's just not in response to what we had to say for whatever reason, right? So, and then somewhat recently, Garfield tried to set up a debate between Adam and Shakka, and there was a lot of back and forth, and there wasn't an agreement on a particular subject matter. So they decided to have this conversation live in front of everyone on Garfield's channel. Shout out to Garfield and Dagger Squad University. That didn't go as planned, as many have seen. So there wasn't an agreement to a debate, and there probably will not be one simply because he doesn't want to discuss his worldview, which he has every right not to. Let me just put it out there. He doesn't have to agree to anything, but because he won't, at least for now, for the time being, there will not be a debate. And I guess he got upset. And then we did a review, me and Adam, we did a review, and MJ, of that discussion. And I don't think he liked that too much. And he's been on quite a tear coming for the UA community.
BK, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me? Can you see me?
Now we can, yeah. You froze for a second.
Yeah. He went at Pastor Bennett, and I've now become his third victim in his videos. And I would like to discuss some of the things that he was speaking about. But before we do, I know you guys have seen this video directed to me, so I was wondering if you could give us your preliminary thoughts on his video.
I'll go first. I know MJ is gonna have a few things to say, man. It was that would be the second long form video of Shakka Ahmose I've seen, and it was 5 hours long, almost 5 hours long, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, by the way, this video will not be 5 hours. We're not covering everything he said, so rest assured. It's not gonna be that. But continue.
Man, it was long, bro. And I'm just like trying to talk around the points, and just as soon as you bring something up, there's a lot of things. And I don't know if it's just a personality, or whatever. Whatever. I ain't mad about that. But good gravy, it was a lot, and it was a lot and a little at the same time. I'll say that to start with. I said, because we said we're gonna be nice, so it was a lot and a little at the same time, if you know what I'm talking about. Your thoughts, MJ? I'm gonna kick it to you.
You said a lot you said a lot, but you really didn't say anything. That's Dr. Richie. Excuse me. I'll be watching the Young Turks from time to time. It's pretty funny. Y'all can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Man, in all honesty, Shakka, one of my favorite characters. I put him in that Sarah Suit and Seti class. You know,
Actually, I wouldn't. I'm gonna push back on you.
What I'm saying is they entertain me.
Oh, okay.
They are
he is far better than Seti.
He is in terms of the information that he bring out. But here's the issue within this whole diatribe. Excuse me, the whole diatribe that basically happened. There was a lot of personality attacks on the whole of Christians. Christians are arrogant. Christians are this. Christians are that. You know, I don't understand why so serious, as the Joker would say. You know, why so serious? You know, but I mean, I tried to listen to the information that he put out, and well, we're gonna get into that, because I think that when you behave and operate emotionally, you know, you're supposed to be doing scholarship, but yet your emotions are kind of getting the best of you. You leave a lot wanting, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with that being said,
and yes, he's a grade above my brother, but they both are funny to me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So with that being said, let me share my screen, and let's talk about one of the first things he brings up. He says that I am a liar. And this is something that he brings up in his short-lived series against the UA, right? The title was, you know, Urban Apologists and the Lies That They Tell. Well, let's talk about lying and what that entails. All right. And this is something that we shared when we did our first response to his short-lived UA series, right? So, okay, the traditional definition of lying. CMB, if you could be so kind.
Sure. It says the most widely accepted definition of lying is the following. Quote, a lie is a statement made by one who does not believe it with the intention that someone else shall be led to believe it. End quote. That's Eisenberg. Lying is making a statement believed to be false with the intentions of getting another to accept it as true.
Right. And there's certain conditions that actually have to be met for someone to be considered a liar. And we're going to look at these conditions. The first one is lying requires that a person makes a statement, right? Second condition, lying requires that the person believe the statement to be false. That is, lying requires that the statement be untruthful. Third, lying requires that the untruthful statement be made to another person. And fourth, lying requires that the person intend that the other person believe the untruthful statement to be true, which is the intention to deceive, the addressee condition. So, in order for me to be considered a liar, or anyone to be considered a liar, you have to make a statement. The statement has to be untrue. The person making the statement knows it's untrue, but he says it to someone else, hoping that the other person believes the untrue statement to be true. All right? These are the conditions that have to be met in order for someone to be considered a liar. Now, for me, in order for him to say that I am a liar, he would actually have to know my intent. And to know my intent, you got to know me. You got to know my heart. You got to know how I move. He doesn't know me. Me and Shakka, you know, our communication has been nothing more than YouTube responses and the occasional Facebook group thread. I don't know him. I can't say he's a liar. I don't know Shakka like that. Shakka don't know me like that. So for him to say that I'm a liar, like, there's certain conditions he hasn't proven. Like, you gotta know my heart. You gotta know that I'm somebody who's purposely being deceitful. Right? That's something that he has to you know, to find out. What do you guys think?
That's pretty straightforward, you know. Like I think that's you know, when you're talking about like intention and stuff like that, I think, like you said, knowing someone makes a big difference, you know. That's just my opinion about that kind of thing. You try to be gracious for people and give people the benefit of the doubt, but you got to look at all kinds of factors as well too. So is what really going on? The intent of deceit or what have you. So that's usually what it is. As far as I'm concerned. What you think, MJ?
Oh. What Calvin Candy said, been a lot of lies said. but nobody on this panel anyway. But no, I think you brought it out succinctly, and that's what I appreciate about your approach. You take your time, you draw out the assertions, and you dissect it thoroughly. And it's simple. I mean, we need not get bogged down into fancy words and things like that. I mean, it's fairly simple. And there it is.
Right.
If a person's going to be lying, at least be able to satisfy these standards right here. And I think that we need to be going by standards tonight. And even when we operate in scholarship, we need to operate according to standards. So everybody remember that word, standard.
Very good. All right, let's continue then. So he goes on to say that what we believe is that there's no connection between ancient Egyptian religion and Christianity. And he shows you Book of the Dead, Bible, white Jesus, which, by the way, none of us subscribe to. Nobody over here believes in white Jesus.
No.
We don't believe in protein or beta VO5 hot oil treatment Jesus. None of us rock with that dude. We don't know who that dude is. All right. And then he shows, I think, Osiris. I think that's Osiris. I could be wrong, but it looks like Osiris. So
was it Fabio back in the day?
Fabio Jesus. None of us over here in this side rock with that. So
right.
I just want to put out there. But and again, I understand, each culture depicts Jesus in their way. I get that. We just don't believe that historically that he was a European. All right. He wasn't Shaka Zulu, but he wasn't Brad Pitt either. He was a Semitic man who lived in the 1st century in ancient Palestine. That's it. So I find this accusation very interesting because for those who know me in this community, I'm the guy that constantly makes the connections to the ancient Near East. Constantly. I'm the ancient Near East guy. I'm the dude who's always talking about the divine council and vassal treaties, and I'm quoting Heiser and Walton, and like I'm the A&E guy. Like to say that I'm saying this is ridiculous. And just to prove it a little bit, right? Here's a quote talking about the word ark, right? Whereas in the 19th century, it was often thought that the term Teba was of Mesopotamian origin. The scholarly consensus today is that it is more likely Egyptian. According to the major Hebrew lexicons, Teba can even mean shrine, sarcophagus, or box, chest. Kosuto argued that it was an Egyptian word denoting coffin or a chest in general, and also a big building such as a palace and the like. Significantly, Muki states that the term Teba is definitely Egyptian and that it had a meaning of shrine since the Old Kingdom. What's more, he goes on to argue that the word has no continent in Semitic, straightening the etymology. This is from Noah's Ark as Mosaic Tabernacle by Mark and Angie Powell. Why am I showing you this? Because in my sermon at church, when I was talking about Noah and the flood, guess what that slide is? That quote. I'm teaching the church that I go to that the word ark has a connection with Egypt. Like I'm teaching this to my church. All right. And then, I've had the honor and privilege of befriending this amazing.
Real quick. Go back to that last slide real quick.
All right, cool.
All right, yeah, real quick. All right.
I can't. All right, there you go.
There you go. Okay, so that was February what?
February 25th of 2020.
2020, right?
Yes.
Okay, 2020. So you've been doing this for a minute, right? It's not like it just happened like recently. You're trying to cover tracks or something like that. Right. Carry on. I'm just
not a problem. Not a problem. My good friend, Dr. David A. Folk, who is a legitimate, actual Egyptologist, but is also a believer in Jesus. And one of my first interviews I've done with him on my channel was his book. And the title of his book is The Ark of the Covenant in its what? Egyptian context. I mean, so we're
It's that connection.
I mean, I'm always making the connection. Now, why do I do that? Because when you see the differences are very polemic, and we learn a lot about our faith based on the way they address other people's worldviews in the biblical world. You know, so it adds more context for us to have a better understanding of Scripture. The Ark is a thoroughly comedic invention. It is, which makes sense since they spent how many centuries in Kemet?
All right.
So yeah, they're gonna come with some comedic ideas, right? So just want to put it out there. You know, I have no problem making connections with the Ancient Near East. I love doing that. That's my thing, right? I mean, am I lying or?
You that dude.
Yeah. So, all right. So now, so you know, he shows us this, right? Because again, the charge that's been given to us, or I should try to say the critique from the conscious community and Shakka, since Shakka has made himself separate from that community, so I want to respect that. But both Shakka and that community like to critique and say that the Bible has plagiarized. It's a ripoff, it's a carbon copy of Christianity. So I was under the assumption that this video was him showing us actual proof of said thievery, right? And he never comes to this conclusion. But this, I thought, because he's showing this, I'm thinking, okay, he's going to actually give us some data that we can work with. Doesn't really happen though, right? So now we're going to get into the first clip. So it's at the 1 hour, 40-second, 33-second mark. So MJ,
All
whenever you are ready.
Yeah, put the video in there for me.
Oh, I thought you had it already. Okay.
Yeah, when I rebooted, it disappeared.
All right, cool. 1 second.
I can resend it. It's right here.
You got it?
Yep.
CMB?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, man. So D News says you ain't lying. Yeah, man. That's my lane. Right? I'm always talking about, you know, Dagon, Marduk. I'm always talking about
we just did a thing. We just did a thing on Mutt on Tuesday.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just look at my playlist. It's just tons of stuff about that.
Right.
You know. So
yeah, and Dini says I guess 5 hours though. Right. Right. There's a whole lot of talking, a lot and not saying a whole lot. So you know, whatever.
You know, so
it is what it is.
Right. Okay. You said 1 hour, 40, 33 seconds.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Make sure you click the box that says audio before you share.
Right.
Who else is in here? Sar, what's going on, sir? Glad to see you. We got Mr. Phil Fox on the check-in. We got Bodega Lady Michelle Turner. Was good. What's going on? Who else? Please, guys, please, if you can, share the link. You know, the more the better. You know, and once again, if you want to, you know, show your love, you know, PayPal. If you want to be a monthly subscriber, you can hit me on the Patreon. All right. So
get some of that inspiration. I'm ready whenever you are. I got it queued up.
Okay, cool. All right, go for it.
All right, I'll go full screen. Ready? Go.
And that's what Christians do better than anything else. They lie. And trust me, Alfredo Valentin is watching this right now. Alfredo the liar Valentin. That's what I'm going to call you from now on. When you lie to black people, that is going to be your new nickname, the liar. You get the label, like the scarlet letter. That is one liar. Here we go. This is what he said. The whole concept of plagiarism. You have to define terms when we have these discussions. When you say plagiarize, What you're saying is somebody took someone else's intellectual property and has said that it is theirs. And they are the originators of this particular property. He says, you do not find this concept in the ancient Near East. Well, we're going to see. He says, you don't find this in the ancient Near East at all. This does not exist. But you can forget that part. We don't even have to address that part. He says, this does not exist. He said, this is very much a modern phenomenon. I forgot the word is. I owe you an is. He said, this is very much a modern phenomenon. So that's the first one, that plagiarism is a modern phenomenon. Forget about whether you find it in the Near East or not.
You can stop it.
Okay.
So, right. So he takes a quote from a video that I've done. And he says, and prior to this, he says, hey, I'm going to allow BK, Mr. Valentin, to say what he's going to say. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, which I appreciate. But what's also bad is when you want to censor the words that are coming out of my mouth. Because if you heard the clip, right, when I get to the part where it says the ancient Near East, he says, never mind that part. Why would you say never mind that part? You know, because he goes on elsewhere to say that Christians want to manipulate and brainwash you and change the way you see things. I'm like, but you just showed a clip, a text of me talking, but you told the people, don't focus on that part. You're censoring me. Mm-hmm. But why are you doing that?
Sounds like
but anyway, let me,
mm-hmm.
And it's not even the whole clip, right? Ooh. So let me share my screen. So that clip comes from my interview. It was the first time I did an interview with Speech from Arrested Development. It's Speech interviews BK Apologist on the topic of urban apologetics. As you see, it's from January 16, 2020, and barely anybody watched it. It's 189 views. So, but here's the transcript of the quote that he just showed you. So Speech is asking me, when people from the conscious community say that the Bible's plagiarized from ancient Kemet, how does one respond? How do you respond, BK? So this is my response. So it's come to that conclusion, but for the sake of the show, I'll get into a little bit. I mean, the whole concept of plagiarism, right? Again, we have to define terms. Well, we have these discussions. When you say plagiarize, what you're saying is somebody took someone else's intellectual property. Remember this term, it will come back to haunt you later. And has said that it is theirs, and they are the originators of this particular property, right? You do not find this concept in the ancient Near East at all. It does not exist. This is very much a modern phenomenon. You're going to revisit that term too. Okay, meaning that the concept of plagiarism, right? Okay, so even in the question actually kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense when we go back into antiquity. But that was a thing. I got you, okay. But then I will also say, well, if you're saying that Christianity is plagiarizing from ancient Kemet, then I would ask, well, you have to show me a passage, something in the Bible, that's in the Bible, that the Bible itself claims it originated. And then you have to find some sort of papyrus or stela in ancient Kemet, right? So this is my stock response when anyone in the conscious community comes with is the Bible plagiarizing from ancient Kemet? I'm like, all right, so we're talking about intellectual property. What you're going to need to show me is somebody like Habakkuk or Jeremiah or Isaiah or Elijah create some sort of concept within the biblical text and say that they are the originators and owners of this concept. Then you're going to have to go to Kemet and find me a scribe or a priest named Imhotep, Ptah, whatever, saying that, hey, that thing that Habakkuk said was his, or that thing that Jeremiah said was his, really isn't his concept. It's mine.
Right.
That's the challenge I give when someone comes with that claim. I'm thinking because he put this quote up, he's going to meet my challenge to that claim. But instead, what Shakka wants to convict me of is because I'm speaking about intellectual property. He thinks what I mean is that nobody has ever stolen anything in the ancient Near East or in antiquity. Like, this is what he's charging me with, that he's thinking I'm saying people don't steal. And I'm like, but that's like saying, you know, there's no such thing as TV dinners in the ancient Near East. And him saying, oh, so what you're saying is there's no food in the ancient Near East. I'm like, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm talking about a very modern concept called intellectual property, which he helps me with describing in his video. Okay, and we're going to go to that second clip now, which is at the 2 hour, 9 minute, and 08 mark. All right, so it's a 2 hour, 9 minute, 8 second.
Plagiarism mark. Was known, discussed, and condemned in ancient sources. Can I see a boom in the chat? I need to see a bunch of booms. I need to see a bunch of booms. It was known, discussed, and condemned in ancient sources. Right? That's from a scholar. All I see is one boom. Hold up. I will end the Discord. Ain't nobody giving me no booms. Hold on a second. I ain't getting no love. Thank you, K Pizza Hootie. I want to see some booms in this chat. I'm dropping bombs in here. Oh no, they both just got shut down. Vince Bantu and this other idiot just got shut down. I want to see some booms, some bombs up in here. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Let's get back to this. No. I'm not going to be dropping bombs to people that are giving me my pots. Yes, Julius, I got it. Absolutely, I got it. Thank you, Nahem. I appreciate the love. It matters. Okay. So let's get back to it. Let me remove that. Let me remove that boom. I damn right. Every time I drop a bomb, I better see some booms in this chat. Or I'm gonna have, 'cause if I have to stop and ask, then that stops the presentation. I don't want to stop. The moment I drop a bomb and it completely refutes what they said, not characterizes what they said, refute what they said. I'm refuting them. Okay? This is how you do scholarship. Plagiarism was known, discussed, and condemned in ancient sources. As one of the best studies of the phenomenon by Bernard Legras summarizes, this is a quote, "In spite of the reticence of our sources and assuming that our texts are indeed admissible, we have been able to establish that plagiarism and forgery of literary works were considered offenses and punished." I'll say that again. Plagiarism and forgery of literary works were considered offenses and punished. I want to hear bomb and I want to hear boom. All right? I want to hear bomb and I want to hear boom. Let's go. Legras does go on to qualify his statement. Plagiarism and forgery were under legal sanction only in cases that appear to have affected the concerns of the state. So not only did it exist and was it condemned, but it was a matter of state issue. It was a state issue. That's how offensive it was. It concerned the state apparatus. And both of these two let me not say that. Both of these two, because all people who are slightly overweight or even grossly overweight are not ignorant like these two people. So let's not make this a matter of their weight. Okay? Let's make this a matter of their tiny little brains. Okay? Miseducating people. This thing was so serious that it was considered offenses and punished at the state level. Okay? Plagiarism and forgery were under legal sanction only in cases that appear to have affected the concerns of the state. There is no evidence of any proprietary laws at any time or place involving the concern to keep writings in general intact and safe from borrowing or stealing, as the ancients called it. So they called it stealing. Stealing, as the ancients called it. So what? There was no proprietary law. So what? Just because there was no proprietary law, it didn't mean it didn't exist. That's like saying there was no proprietary law against murder.
So what?
So what?
So what?
Well, first of all, even before we get to that part, right? he was stating that plagiarism and forgery was a issue of the state. That's not what the quote says.
Mm-hmm.
Plagiarism and forgery, right, was under legal sanction only if the case appeared to have affected the state. Only. He doesn't say only.
Mm-hmm.
He makes it seem as if this was the order of the day. Like all these things were always under the state's scrutiny. That's not what it says. But then he goes on and he says this, and I happen to have this book as well. It says, there is no evidence of any preparatory laws at any time or place involving the concern to keep writings in general intact and safe from borrowing or stealing, as the ancients called it. And he tells the people, once he says this, so what about this? So I'm like, so you censor me and you're basically censoring yourself? Why is it that you don't want people to focus on proprietary laws? There's a reason why he doesn't want to, because this is what I'm talking about. Okay, because what's proprietary? Well, I'm glad you asked. In this legal website called upconsult.com, it says proprietary relates to ownership and the rights an owner may exercise in regards to his or her property or information. A proprietor is one that possesses, owns, or holds exclusive right to something legally. What is proprietary often refers to proprietary information. Proprietary information is important, possibly sensitive information that a company owns. This information usually gives the company competitive advantages in its market. Protection to these proprietary articles are through intellectual property law, copyright, patents, trademarks, etc. So proprietary, right? It's the protection of concepts and ideas, right? And it's protected through intellectual property law. So why is it that there wasn't any proprietary laws in antiquity or in the ancient Near East? I'm glad you asked that too. Because according to Daedalus Volume 131, number 2 on intellectual property, published by the MIT Press on behalf of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the concept of intellectual property, which what I was talking about, the idea that an idea can be owned, is a child of the European Enlightenment.
Hold up. You mean to tell me that the Tom Who's came up with this idea?
Pretty much.
And we are taking the Tom Who's idea and projecting it back.
We're retrofitting it back to the Bronze Age.
On melanated people in the Bronze Age?
And the Iron Age, yes.
Oh my God.
It was only when people began to believe that knowledge came from the human mind, working upon the senses rather than through divine revelation assisted by the study of ancient texts, that it became possible to imagine humans as creators and hence owners of new ideas rather than as mere transmitters of eternal verities. Besides being distinctively modern, didn't I say it was a modern phenomenon?
You did. I heard you.
Thank you. Besides being distinctively modern, intellectual property is a dense concept woven together from at least 3 complex strands of jurisprudence: copyright, patent, and trademark, each with its own sources in pre-modern custom and law, and each with its own trajectory into our own era. Still, copyright and complementary concepts of authors' rights and literary property in continental law, the focus of this essay, are at the core of the modern concept of intellectual property. It was here In the 18th century, it was here in the 18th century that the language of, quote, ideas and, quote, property first came into contact with one another and first forged a legal bond. And it was here, too, that the very idea of property right in ideas was most sharply contested at the outset and to the present day. Can I get a boom? No, I'm still playing. I'm playing.
No, Adrian Jones gave you one in the chat right there.
I got a boom. I got a boom. I got a boom.
Oh my goodness!
Put that cash app up there.
Yeah. Because I thought I was very specific when I was talking about what I would like to see be met via this claim that they make about us, the Bible plagiarizing from Egypt. I said intellectual property. Right? I said intellectual property.
But
right?
not only that, Alfredo, you said intellectual property taking place in the A&E.
Right.
Shakka runs to Europe to find a pigeonhole version of what he's seeking to prove. And when I say pigeonhole, look, you do certain things like this when your aim is not to teach, but to simply try to win an argument. Mm-hmm. If you were seeking to teach, you would have brought out all those other things. And you would have at least been open, like, hey, couldn't find it in the A&E, but I found it over here in, Southeast Europe amongst these Tammuz, these Europeans. But, it is what it is. No, you're just trying to, win an argument. And it's pinhole scholarship, pigeonhole.
All right. To Pluto, you said plagiarism was modern, not intellectual property. Let's go to the quote. You're saying is someone took someone else's intellectual property and has said that it's theirs and they are the originators of this particular property, right? You do not find this concept. What concept am I speaking about, Pluto? Intellectual property. That's why I actually put it in yellow, because I figured someone would not understand that. And this is how reading comprehension, not to be disrespectful, but this concept, what concept did I just finish talking about? Intellectual property. Okay, Pluto? Thank you.
I just don't see, I don't see how we can be misleading when we're actually taking time to give you definitions, to read everything in context to you. Not saying, hey, don't worry about that over there. Ignore that. So what about that? No, I don't get it. I don't get it. It seems like people like to be lied to. Right. And yes, when you don't tell all of the truth, it's a lie as well.
Now, Shakka actually gives me another alley-oop with the source that he tried to use to cut me. And here is this. And I think he mentions this as well. The phenomenon is in any event not unknown to our sources, as we have already seen in the case of Heracles Ponticus, who, according to I'm killing these words, Digeneus Liturius, not only published extensively works of his own, but also occasionally published works of others as if he had written them. Quote, Chameleon complains that Heracles' treatise on the works of Homer and Hesiod were plagiarized from his own. I'm glad he said this, because this is the template of what I want when it comes to what I said in the clip that he played, right? Here's someone saying that somebody else took my concept from me. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some Kemetic priest or scribe to say on a stela or on a papyrus, or any other writing medium, stating that Jeremiah, Moses, Habakkuk, Elijah, any of the authors of the Bible, they made a claim to a concept, and they should not make that claim because it's mine. Right? So that's what I want. That what Chameleon did to this dude is what I want to see. He never shows us this. This is the template. So now when people ask me what I'm looking for something like this. This is what I'm looking for. So now nobody should be confused, because Shakka showed you the template. This is what I'm looking for in the Ancient Near East.
Right.
Okay. So, all right. So then he goes and tries to show various examples of plagiarism and stealing, right? So he goes to Origin contra Celsius, and he shows that this is a Origin, is an apologist, and he is confronting the claims of Celsus. And here's one of the claims. Now, and I appreciate Shakka for really unpacking this, because he clearly shows how Celsius uses a rhetorical device of a fictional conversation between a Jew and Jesus, right? So he unpacks that. He actually does a really good job of that. He really does. And of course, Origin is going to pick apart this rhetorical vehicle that he uses to critique Christianity. So with that being said, this is what Origin says. And since in imitation of the rhetorian training of pupil, he introduces a Jew who enters into a personal discussion with Jesus and speaks in a very childish manner, altogether unworthy of the gray hairs of a philosopher. Let me endeavor, to the best of my ability, to examine his statements and show that he does not maintain throughout the discussion the consistency due to the character of a Jew. For he represents him disputing with Jesus and confronting him as he thinks on many points. And in the first place, he accuses him of having invented his birth from a virgin and upbraids him with being born in a certain Jewish village of a poor woman of the country. So what he is saying is that Celsius, in this rhetorical fictional account that he uses to criticize, he uses this Jew and Jesus, confronting Jesus about how Jesus invented his birth from a virgin. Now, of course, Origin continues to rebut these claims, but what I would like to showcase on and focus on, what if Celsius is correct in this rhetorical device? What if this was an actual conversation with an actual Jew confronting Jesus, saying that Jesus invented his birth from a virgin, right? Why is that interesting? Well, to invent something, there's two main definitions, right? It's to create or design something that has not existed before, be the originator of, or make up an idea, name, story, etc., especially so as to deceive someone. Now, this second definition is what this fictional Jew is going for when he says that Jesus invented his virgin birth. Here's the issue. If Jesus invented the story, then he didn't take it from somewhere else.
Uh-oh.
Right?
Uh-oh.
The fictional Jew is criticizing and laying an accusation that Jesus invented this idea. Not Horus, not Osiris. Jesus did it. So how is this an example of plagiarism or stealing of any kind? He's saying that he's the one that did it. You're the author. You're the originator. And if we was talking in modern times, it would be his intelligent property. Gentlemen, want to say anything before we continue?
Yes. Adam Coleman, this is what you was going to be looking forward to had you took the debate. Right here. These are the arguments. These are the arguments, and like my brother just said, invent. It's fairly simple. The sources in this encounter, the sources are really telling too much. If they're saying anything, they're saying too much, and that's the sad part about this. That's the sad part.
Right. So let's continue. Well, CMB, please. You want to share anything before we?
I ain't got nothing, bro. This is. I'm just kind of. I was talking to the chat here, and Amir's like, going
no
back
problem. No problem.
Man. It was kind of torturous, bro. And it's nonsensical. I don't know if are going to talk about Mary here in a second too, or are you just gonna?
Well, if you want to talk about Mary, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Like around the same time frame, y'all. The brother Shakka is talking about how Mary was divorced, divorced, I think is the word he used, from Joseph for, let's say, adultery. Okay, he used other words that are not PG, so I will just kind of use that right there. So he's committing adultery. And here's the thing, right? According to the Old Testament scriptures, the punishment for adultery, either with a woman who was married or one who was betrothed to be married, was death. So if that was the case, right, and he tried to make it seem as though this was the actual facts of what was going on with Christ's upbringing, right? If that was the case, Mary wouldn't have survived, and Jesus wouldn't have survived either, because she would have been dead.
Right.
Okay. And it's not like you can find out that you're pregnant like back in the day by going to the Walgreens or Rite Aid and getting a pregnancy test. You know what I'm saying? She would have probably missed a couple periods. She would have been, showing by that point in time, and everybody would have realized, she hadn't been out of her house according to the law around the time that she'd have been on her cycle, more than likely, right? As she should have if she was according to the law. And not only that, that she would have been told, she would have been found out as again, the accusation is adultery. So if that was the case, then they would have had to kill her, and even Joseph probably. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the things that you can't have your cake and eat it too on this one. Right. It just doesn't fit with the biblical narrative and the Israelite culture at that time.
Oh no, that's yeah, absolutely good stuff.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Now Valley mythicism just simply falls on his face as a hypothesis for Jesus. Period.
Next up, he brings up the papers of Martin Luther King, and he shares this particular quote. MJ, Ashley, could you read this for us?
Okay. I took my glasses off, but I'll make it a little bit bigger. It's not all surprising in view of the wide and growing influence of these religions that when the disciples in Antioch and elsewhere preached a crucified and risen Jesus, they should be regarded as the heralds of another mystery religion, and that Jesus himself should be taken for the divine Lord of the cult through whose death and resurrection salvation was to be had. That there were striking similarities between the developing church and these religions cannot be denied. Even Christian apologists had to admit that fact. Christianity triumphed over these mystery religions after long conflict. The triumph may be attributed in part to the fact that Christianity took from its opponents their own weapons and used the better elements of the mystery religions were transferred to the new religion. The influence of the mystery religions on Christianity.
Right. So is Martin Luther King making the claim that the church stole from these other belief systems? Or is he saying that there are some similarities?
I see striking similarities. I don't see
striking similarities.
Right.
And it says that no Christian apologists, even Christian apologists, had to admit that fact. You know which particular Christian apologist always admits to that fact? Me. I'm always showing the similarities. I'm the one that shows the similarities all the time. But again, there is no charge of theft anywhere in this passage. Here's another passage. It's inevitable when a new religion comes to exist side by side with a group of religions from which it's continually detaching members, introducing them to its own myths with the practices of their original religions impressed upon their minds, that this new religion should tend to assimilate with the assimilation of their members some of the elements of these existing religions. The more crusading a religion is, the more it absorbs. Certainly, Christianity has been a crusading religion from the beginning. It is because of this crusading spirit and its superb power of adaptability that Christianity has been able to survive, right? Now, of course, I think he's alluding to the Crusades, because he likes using this verb to, and I'm not a fan of the Crusades at all, personally. The history of Christianity is not without its bad, dark spots. What I mean? So we freely admit to that. And when those things occur, those things aren't a reflection of the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, real quick. I don't
Yes.
know. Like I don't know if he's saying this, and correct me if I'm wrong here. The more crusading a religion is, the more it absorbs. Like, and I'm taking it to mean like crusading as far as like I know it's a bad word nowadays, but evangelizing and being evangelical. I know that that particular word in this culture in 21st century America has a lot of baggage. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
we're talking simply about proselytizing and speaking the good news. That is in that sense. Hear me well. In that sense, we should be considered evangelical in that sense, right?
Right.
Not
Right.
politically speaking, and
Right.
and all the mishmash nonsense that's going on right about now. So that said, that's what I'm picking up from this quote here. Like I said, I could be wrong about that, but yeah, like as the Christian faith moves into different areas, there's going to be, like I said, you don't absorb a different culture and become solely like all of us don't worship in the same way that the ancient uh, first Israelite converts did, nor do all of us worship like the Coptic Christians worship, nor do all of us worship like the ancients in Constantinople and so forth like that, right? The first Christian converts. All of us have elements of our culture that can be salvaged and then brought under the lordship of Christ.
Right.
That's just kind of how that is, and it's not a
Right.
problem to remain who you are under Christ. You know what I'm saying? As long as those things in your culture are not against the basically the culture of the kingdom is what I'm trying to say, right? And so I don't think that's a problem per se. It will absorb certain things, like a lot of times MJ about Kojic and stuff like that. So there's certain elements of African American worship styles that are normalized in certain circles, but not normalized in other circles, right? And
Right.
those things have their place. Where you don't have to worship just like one person or another group or what have you, right? It's not a debate over pipe organs or Hammond organs in heaven. It's not at all, right? It's just that those things can be absorbed as they are and used for the glory of God as needed. So
Right.
that's what I'm getting from that.
No, great point. I mean, one does not have to throw away his Africanness
Right.
to make Jesus Lord, nor do you have to throw away your Europeanness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are aspects of those cultures that do get thrown away because they contradict scripture.
Right.
We know that in ancient Kemet, while they were destroying the temple of Serapis, they were also developing the Crux Ansata, which is very similar to the Ankh, because the Ankh is a hieroglyphic symbol that represents life. And to a Kemetic Christian, when he thinks life, he thinks Christ, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He's the one that gives eternal life. So if you are a Kemetic African believer in Christ and you want to express that theological point, why not use your own script to do so?
Right.
There's no theft there because it's their script. Right? So each culture does that. Each culture uses different things, as long as it doesn't contradict scripture, to express scripture.
Correct.
And that's one of the reasons why the quote unquote how it adapts so well, because not everything that's in the culture is sinful. And that's something that we all need to understand, because sometimes, the way our brothers and sisters in, Mozambique, they might have a different style than those of us who live in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that they're heretics or they're heretics. It just means we have different styles based on the culture we are in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's not, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, and like to be fair, all of those things are celebrated, and we'll be seeing those distinctions in the earth made new, as we see, like in Revelation. You know what I'm saying? Like all these people from all nations, tribes, kindreds, tongues of people were gathered around the throne. Everybody, they're still distinct people. So we still. I don't know if we're going to be black in heaven or not, or whatever the case is. But I mean, at that point in time, the culture is, you're still being able to differentiate there. So it's not, I don't see color. I do see color, and it's beautiful. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's all good.
Shout out to my man E Black.
In truth, yeah.
He says, I agree. Let me post this thing.
Okay.
He says, I agree. Some Christianity can kill African culture. For instance, the Holy Spirit is almost vague in one and absolute in the other. I don't understand the last part, but again, right? As long as the culture doesn't contradict scripture, it's fine. but it also preserves African culture. Case in point, the Coptic script. In fact, they went out of their way to preserve it so that they won't be Arabized by Islam. And we know that Coptic is one of the oldest working African scripts still in existence, and its preservation is solely because of the Coptic Christians. So, in fact, there was a movement of Coptic Christians that called themselves, and wait for this, there's another connection, the sons of Pharaoh. Because their thing is, no, we are true, we love Jesus, but we love who we are too. So we're not going to become Arabs because you guys believe in Islam. No, we're Christians, and we are thoroughly 100% from Kemet. So much so, we see ourselves as sons of the Pharaoh, right? So, little bonus there. So anyway,
boom.
Yeah, boom. Next, he goes on, and he quotes from Sheikh Anta Diop. Much respect to Sheikh Anta Diop, Black scholar, doing his thing, and what Mr. Diop says here, which gives the area of the cylinder tangent to the sphere of a height equal to the diameter of the latter. Do not fail to associate these two figures in order to derive an empirical, theoretical, general method for the study of curved areas and volumes, and to establish the ratios of the area and the volume of these two bodies. Now, a sphere inscribed in the right cylinder of a height equal to the diameter of the sphere in the same figure that Archimedes chose as his epitaph, considering that this was his best discovery. Thus, Archimedes did not even have the excuse of an honest scholar who would rediscover an established theorem without knowing that it has been discovered 2,000 years before him by his Egyptian predecessors. The other borrowings in which he indulged himself during and after his trip to Egypt, without ever citing the sources of his inspiration, show clearly that he was perfectly conscious of his sin, and that hereby he was being faithful to a Greek tradition of plagiarism that went back to Thales, Pythagoras, Plato, Eudoxus, Onesimus, Aristotle, etc., which the testimonies of Herodias and Diodorus of Sicily reveal to us in part. The epitaph of Archimedes, rediscovered by Cyril and Syracuse, proves that this is not a myth propagated by tradition. But in the new Dictionary of Scientific Biography, 8 volumes by Noretta Coleridge, it says, Archimedes in Alexandria. It is usually assumed that Archimedes studied in Alexandria. However, no source asserts this, and a critical assessment of the evidence commonly adduced suggests the contrary. So Anta Diop said that he stole this stuff from Egypt. But here it says that those claims can't be proven.
Right.
In fact, the evidence shows the opposite. He did not go to Egypt to learn these things.
I don't know, man. What you think, NJ? I mean, like, my thing is, like, it almost seems like people expect only one person to come up with something at the same time or around the same time. You know what I mean? And sometimes some things, like, I don't know if it's like the leisure time that you might have, or the intellectual acumen to come up with certain things, or you notice certain things, or you work in certain bodies of work, or what have you, and you end up coming up with certain things. You know what I mean? And you might see it someplace else. So, for example, in my particular field of study, I have to do continuing education courses to keep up my licensure. And what ends up happening is that, like, every now and again, I'll be in like a clinical setting or whatever the case is, I'm doing something, and then something will pop in my head, hey, let's try this, and it works or it feels pretty good. I'll do it a couple times with a couple of different folks, and things seem to get make some improvements in the condition. And then I might go to a continuing education course, and it's been there, and this person's been teaching this thing for like the last 3-4 years or whatever the case is. I'm like, oh, okay, because there's certain principles with like the human body that will work over and over and over again, right? There's certain things with math and science and density and objects and so forth like that sooner or later, you're not going to see pyramids necessarily all over in every single culture. However, some cultures did share different building patterns and styles, and some folks they may not have had the same kind of let's say boat for example, but different cultures do have a way to make sure that the rafts can float, or canoes they can dig out, or boats or what have you. But the principles are all similar, you know what I'm saying? Or like anything from like martial arts or something like that. Even you can throw a punch a certain way or a kick a certain way, and it'll be efficient. And so one person can't necessarily say I named that punch or I named that kick. It's after me. I invented it. So I don't know what you think about that, if that's making any sense to you guys, whatever. But it just, to me, it's just like, it's not always a linear one person and then everyone steals it from them. Some people can come up with some things, from time to time. So
I agree.
Well, one, let's just put this in context too. Shake is operating off of the stolen legacy hypothesis, and namely, this is a reaction against Eurocentrism. This is a reaction against the view that the Egyptians were white. So it's not enough that the Egyptians were African, but also all of the claims that the Greeks make all of their claims to fame, the geometric theorems, the laws of logic, democracy, the republic, things like that. Well, guess what? Y'all stole all that. You even raided the library at Alexandria, and wasn't even the library built yet. But y'all still raided it. But see, this was and Sheikh made some good observations.
Absolutely.
I think he wrote some good books. I think there are some truth in it. I think there are some truth in destruction of Black civilization by Chancellor Williams. I have most of those books on the shelf back there. Jury is still out on Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James. I think if you want to hear a healthy debate, you need to go read Martin Bernal and Mary Lefkowitz. Mary Lefkowitz wrote Not Out of Africa. Martin Bernal wrote Black Athena. Then the whole other group of scholars wrote, Black Athena, something refuting or critiquing Black Athena. It's a whole back and forth to this stuff. And I would try to look at the view that does not romanticize Africa, because I have a problem with people who romanticize America. I have a problem with them. They can't do history right. That's an issue for me. So Sheikh is operating off of this type of paradigm, and the evidence is just not lining up. But furthermore, because they're operating off of this paradigm, we see that white people want to take credit for Jesus. Oh, but yeah, he was stolen from Kemet too.
Right.
Can be both.
Right.
Okay. Everything that you Tom Who love, y'all stole it from Africa.
Right.
But
let me ask you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, bro.
No, I was going to ask you this. Like, what do y'all think about this? So, like, if there's the University of Alexandria, right? Let's just say, what do you go to the university to do? You go to learn something, right? And then you develop a skill set of some sort, or you study certain things, like multiple medicine and math and science, whatever the case is, whatever you do. And then you take it back to wherever you came from in order to propagate the knowledge, right? Okay. So let's just say BK has a university. Okay. BK has a university. MJ and CMB both go to BK's university. We both learn. And then MJ goes back to Texas and I come back to Ohio, right? The people that follow after me wouldn't necessarily know anything about MJ, right? But that's not to say that MJ didn't contribute anything to the field, right? Or anything was stolen from, or that CMB stole anything from MJ, or vice versa, right? If you meet the people that, or when you come up 50 years later or 100 years later, and they're saying, "Oh, CMB invented this," no, it was MJ. And the people fighting in the streets over something that we both learned from BK, who may have developed that, and he might have had a teacher or teachers who helped him develop those kinds of things, right? So I don't know that we have to make an either or type of proposition with a lot of these things, right? And I agree with you 100% about the fact that we don't have to romanticize history. Let's just tell it like it is, right? So some things just I'm going to choose violence to say some things aren't CRT, they're just history. But I digress. I'll let y'all do all the violence on the weekend here coming up.
Yeah, it's coming. Let me say one more thing.
It's coming.
Rest assured,
it's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming. I promise you. On a Christian anthropology, we rightly recognize that God uses people. He endows people and people groups with gifts and talents to give certain things to the world. Furthermore, God also has created this world and all of reality in such a way that things about it can be discovered and rightly recognized that ultimately point us back to Him. So, how else is it that mathematical laws apply to reality? You nobody's inventing mathematical laws. This is something that you recognize because it applies to reality, to all of reality. And so we find that the human mind, in some way, shape, or fashion, is built to study the reality that it finds itself in. And you just don't get that on a humanistic concept of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So so as I've shown, when I answered this question to speech, I was talking about a modern concept known as intellectual property, which actually Shakka helps to inform us that there is no proprietary laws, no evidence of that back then, for the simple fact that the concept of intellectual property does not show up until the 18th century. That doesn't mean, well, actually, before I say that part, so most people today, if you mention anything about plagiarism, they're thinking of a modern concept. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't a form of plagiarism in ancient days. So what I'm going to do is show two examples of how this particular iteration of plagiarism was exercised. And you tell me if it's very similar to a modern concept. All right. So with that being said, this is from Plagiarism in Latin Literature by Scott McGill. It says, in the passage from the, can't read that, I don't read Greek, where it survives through Eusebius, Porphyry presents a fictionalized symposium in which his interlocutors, led by the grammarian Apollonius, discuss many examples of literature. These works made the case that certain authors, Herodias and Meander, conspicuous among them, were plagiarists, and laid out the parallels to prove the point. It is uncertain how much of the fictional content reflects real conversations with which Porphyry was familiar or in which he participated. But whatever the historical foundations of the passage, Porphyry appears to advocate through it a particular type of community behavior in which symposiasts demonstrate their culture learning by dealing with the subject of literary, I think that means thievery in Greek. The model conversation that Porphyry constructs preserves a significant amount of evidence for plagiarism hunting in Greek culture that would otherwise be lost to us. So Scott is saying that this was a model of how they talked about plagiarism. So they would create fictionalized symposiums to talk about, this idea of maybe one artist taking from another artist. Now, how valid would this be in a court of law today? If I said to Judge CMB, like, listen, Judge, imagine, if you will, Wolverine and Luke Skywalker. And while they were fighting, they said, this particular artist took from this artist. Do I win, Judge? Right? It's a vastly different way of going about it than we do today.
Correct.
Right? Here's another example. Same article. In its prima facie evident that the concept of plagiarism migrated from the Greek world to Latin literature. Yet another expression of Horace's famous dictum, captured Greece, captured its rude conqueror. The channels through which this movement occurred cannot be known for certain. We might speculate, however, that with the growth of Roman literacy culture in the late 3rd and very early 2nd century BCE, in which Greek influence was paramount. Romans grew familiar with the idea and adopted it to apply to their own texts. To be more precise, it is possible that Latin comic poets originally imported the concept. Reference to it first appeared in the prologues of Terence's comedies in the 160s BCE, in passages describing plagiarism, accusations made against him by his rivals. This development could well stem from Greek Old Comedy, whose playwrights likewise leveled plagiarism charges against one another as, quote, ritualized insults, unquote, and sources of comic entertainment, but may well respond to other sources as well. So another way they use the concept of plagiarism is basically what we would call playing the dozens.
Right.
It's like, come on, CMB, you wearing the same sneakers I'm wearing, ha ha.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Ritualized insults.
Right. The shark producers of the year, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
And trying to steal people's rap styles or whatever.
Right.
You know,
so when we right, exactly. So when we talk of plagiarism today, is this what we're talking about? Ritualized insults? No.
Boy.
No. Very different iteration of the concept. I was always talking about a modern version. Right? So Amir here, being the scholar that he is, he says, I remember one of those playwrights, The Clouds with Socrates. So they would make fictionalized symposiums. They would use it to snap at one another. The comics.
Right.
So yeah, they dealt with plagiarism, but they dealt with it vastly different than what I was talking about. I'm talking about intellectual property, which didn't appear until the 18th century. Right? So
not in Kemet, by the way.
Not in Kemet. Which brings us back to this slide.
Right.
Because this is what I want to see. And I'm thinking by him showing this, he's going to show us. He's going to show us where somebody in the Bible, some prophet, some teacher, some scribe, says that he creates a concept that is originally his, and that he will now show us a primary source of a Kemetic scribe or priest saying that that concept came from them. That's what I said, for the most part, in that quote. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody claiming that their intellectual property was taken. And of course, you're not going to find that because it was a modern phenomenon. But even when you do talk about plagiarism, it is not the plagiarism that we deal with today. So not only am I not a liar, I'm actually not wrong. But so, gentlemen, what do you think before I wrap this up?
I think it's pretty clear, man. I mean, like, and again, a classic case of talking past each other sometimes, or like I'm not gonna speak to any intentions on Shakka's part, because again, I don't know him either,
Right.
So like if you're looking past one another or talking past one another using the same language meaning something different, that can happen from time to time. So I'm glad that this was able to be cleared up, in this sense. You know what I'm saying? And I hope the people in the chat are paying attention to what's going on and why we do this, because we go out of our way, in general, as a community, to define terms, right? We go out of our way to produce sources, like all the receipts for days. Like I say it all the time. It's like we got receipts longer than CVS around here, right? We really do. Because we have to, right? We get ripped from every angle you could think of. You know what I'm saying? And so people, they don't like certain things that we talk about, because we go hard after Christians just as hard as we go after people who are not Christians. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of those things that we have to be able to demonstrate these things and be as accurate as we can in our reporting here. So that's kind of where that's at. So I'm appreciative of what you've done today. And again, thanks for having me on the show with you. You know what I'm saying? It's a good time kicking it with you guys as always, bro. But this is kind of where we're at, y'all. So
MJ?
Colin said everything I wanted to say, but but no, I mean, it's crystal clear. I mean, I just think people need to slow down, not be so quick always to want to be a contrarian. And please don't assume nefarious intent on our part. Look, just
Right.
because we're convinced that Christianity is true and we seek to commend the Christian worldview to other people, that's not evil. That's not wrong. We're in a place of what's called cognitive rest. We don't have to live our life in this constant skepticism. I mean, we're just
Right.
commending to other people what we know to be true. And
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Amen. Amen. And this is what I want to say specifically to Shakka. So we've been doing this back and forth for some time. And actually you actually helped me to understand there was something I was doing that was incorrect. And I was sharing it with the brothers not too long ago. A lot of times when we do these refuting videos, I never think that the person I'm refuting is ever going to change, right? I always think, well, I'm doing these refutations for the people who listen to this individual who's disseminating this information, right? I have hope for the people in the chat. I have hope for the people that will watch the videos later. I have hope for the people that might be on the fence when it comes to Christianity. But I never give that same amount of hope for the person that's actually disseminating this information. And for that, I just want to openly say I am wrong for that. And to Shakka, I believe in you, Shakka. I have hope for you. And this back and forth, man, I don't hate you at all. And you said as much as before. And I appreciate that. But I feel like if we're going to have this conversation, I think we should have it off air. You're back in New York. Let's sit down. Let's get into the city. Let's have some tea. And let's chop it up. Or if you want, I'll just shut up and you tell me your story. Tell me, because there's something about Christianity that bothers you, but yet still resonates with you. Because you, on your own accord, have shared your great passion and love for gospel music. And it's more than just a genre. There's messaging involved, and I think it still resonates with you. Mm-hmm. And I my agenda. I'm going to be honest, Shakka. I would like us to actually be friends. I think you're entertaining, dynamic, creative individual, and I feel like your gifts would be greatly used in God's kingdom. We want you to be part of the family, Shakka. I don't want. Now, if you keep going at Christianity, one of us is going to refute it because we're going to defend our faith. But the back and forth is like, let's work something out, Shakka. Let's work something out. I want you to be my brother in Christ, Shakka. If you don't mind having a mental midget as your brother, as you call me, let's actually be friends, Shakka. Like we don't have to, go at each other. You don't have to insult me the way you do. It's fine. I can overlook all that. But we want you to be our brother, Shakka. For real. We don't want to do the back and forth, man. I really don't. Because again, I just feel like if we could do this away from everyone, and listen, no one has to know when we talk, and no one has to know what we talk about. Me and you are both from Brooklyn. We ain't snitches. We know what
County of Kings.
County of Kings. Recognize. Everybody better recognize that. So BK to the fullest. And I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the borough. So, but let's talk, man. Let's talk offline. Let's get together. Let's chop it up. Let's have some tea. Share some lives. Share our lives. Let's, because I think you're a cool guy. When you're not trying to take my head off. And that's the thing, man. I really want you to really see what the gospel is. Maybe people have given you a false sense of what the gospel is. Maybe you've had some bad experiences. And listen, I'll share some of my experiences. I've been church hurt too, as a believer. Mm-hmm. I got tons of stories. We could go story for story if you like, but even with all that pain, I still believe that this is the way, the truth, and the life. And we want you, Shakka Ahmose, to be a part of this. We want you to be our brother in Christ, Shakka.
Amen.
Okay? So please, let's now if you don't want to do this, you have every right to. Yes, I just want you to know that we have no malice. We're not trying to get you. You know, I personally have love for you, Shakka. We're both from Brooklyn. We're both from the same projects, Shakka. We're both from Gowanus projects, bro. I was for 426 Baltic Street. You know what I mean? It's like we're from the same hood, same borough, bro. Like, let's link up. Let's talk. Just two men, and again, no one has to know what we talk about. It'll be strictly in confidence, you know. But my agenda is to see you be the best Shakka you could be. You know what I mean? That's what I want. That's my hidden agenda, to see Shakka be an amazing man of God.
Amen.
And that's what I want to finish this video on saying. So I love you, Shakka. I got love for you, Shakka. I would like for us to be friends. I don't want to do this. I really don't. You know, and I feel like whatever pain you have is causing you to do certain things. I feel like if you dealt with these issues, you wouldn't do these things that you do in these videos. You know, because I don't think you're a dummy. I know you think I am. I don't think that of you. I do not think you're a mental midget at all. Oh, and by the way, I don't eat chicken. I've been plant-based for 3 years, bro. So just want to throw it out there too. I love you. We love you. Adam loves you too. We all love you, bro. Nobody here hates you.
Yes.
All right. So you can inbox me. Let's talk. You know what I mean? So there's no malice, no animosity. It's all love. But if you keep coming for Christianity, we're going to keep defending it. I hope you can appreciate and respect that. So any last words before we out here, guys?
No, I mean, I hope those words fall on ready ears, and like you said, I think Shakka would be a pretty funny guy to talk to. So, you know,
I'll say this in closing too, man. I agree with you 100%. And I would say that invitation goes out to anybody, you know, who's found themselves outside of Christianity and has a lot of issues with the church and what the church is doing and not doing and so forth like that. Because there's certain things, like, you know, we're human beings, you know, said as BK let out the bag, most of y'all already know I am a pastor. You know, and you know, we're humans too, and we don't always get it right. You know, there's certain things that the accusations tend to get floated out there about what the church does and doesn't do, and what pastors do and don't do with the money. Like every time you see me kind of turn my camera off today, I've been yawning because I work for a living. I pastor for free. You know what I'm saying? I honestly do. I do not take a salary. My senior pastor does not take a salary, and our church is in the hood. You know what I'm saying? We don't even do tithing at my church. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't have to. And that's one of those things that y'all take all the money out the hood. No, we're not. Not this group. You know what I'm saying? Others, I don't know what they do over there. But as far as us, though, we don't do that kind of thing. And so regardless of that, you know, the whole point is that we want everybody to know the Lord that we know. You know what I'm saying? We disagree wholeheartedly with the Christianity that seems to be emblazoned on the airways. You know what I'm saying? All the you know, the Creflos and the Joel Osteens and everybody else. We bang on them just as hard as anybody else. Like, you know what I'm saying? From the pulpit. It's not a hidden agenda at all. You know, and we want to see black people flourish. We want to see white people flourish. We want to see brown people flourish. We want to see everybody, every other crayon color that is flourish, so to speak, under the lordship of Christ. That's kind of that's what we do. You know what I'm saying? So the invitation is open to anybody, whosoever will, let them come. You know, and may we all learn to know the Lord for ourselves. So,
amen. Shakka, man. Again, we love you, man. We really do. We really want you to come to Christ. We think that you'll be a powerful warrior in the Lord's army. We really would. You know what I mean? So that's my heart. Okay. All right. So with that being said, I will be on tomorrow, and I'll be talking about Jesus and Horus, since that's been a hot topic once again. I figured I would address that. That would be fun. MJ, what do you have coming in the near future? MJ's gonna be very busy in the next couple of days, guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? For those who say I don't go live enough on my channel, Dr. Pritchett cracking jokes last week. really was cracking jokes. Going to be probably going live to discuss some current events impacting the Lord's church, some issues of character, some issues of witness. Me and Apologists in Detroit will talk about that Friday. Saturday morning, we're going to have Dr. Joel McDermott of the Lamb's Reign. He's going to be coming on my channel to talk once again with yours truly and Apologists in Detroit, Chris Brian Samuel, my partner in crime. Later on that afternoon, around 4:30, we're going to be having two special guests, Brandon Cleaver and Bradley Mason, Mr. also a carpenter. We're gonna talk about CRT. Okay. And here's the thing with CRT. I don't really care. I don't really need it. But you know, at the least, what we can do, if anything, is we can represent even those who we disagree with correctly. And then if we have the truth, if it's wrong, we can refute it. What's wrong with that? That's God glorifying. 1 Corinthians 10:31. That's what we operating off of.
Cool. CMB, are you planning to come back to the interwebs soon?
No, I'm going on vacation next week. Soon is relative. Yes, I'll be back sooner rather than later. But yeah, I'm going on vacation next week, and I'm going to be spending some time with some family. And don't call me, don't text me. No, I can't help you. No, I'm just playing. As always, people that know me, hit me up on my phone. I'll be chilling. Hopefully, spending a whole lot of time during the day because we're going down south. So during the daytime in the air conditioning, at the nighttime I'm in the pool. Holla at your boy. I'm gonna get my my sleep in on. You heard me? So that's what I'm doing. So
yes, sir. Sounds good.
But
sounds
Triple B with me or CMB, whatever it's called. I can't remember what my show's called. It's been so long. But back to Bible Basics with the Ambassador is coming back. We're gonna push for like an September October start date. So we're looking at some other guests and lining up some stuff as well, including the classes and the interview portion. And I just started a group on Clubhouse too. So nice. More to come on that later on. Okay, so you'll hear more about that in the future.
Sounds good. So with that being said, MJ, CNB, and BK signing off. Peace.